Hey everyone. When we see those headlines about conflict in the Middle East, it's pretty easy to think of it as a problem happening way over there, right? But the real story here isn't just about one region, it's about a massive global ripple effect. Let's start with what you've probably been seeing in the news.
Okay, so first up you have the most direct, the most visible part of the conflict. This headline from AP News really sets the scene. This is active, it's escalating military engagement. This is what we call the kinetic part of the story, the one with troops and bombs and real-world consequences.
But right at the same time, you see this. S&P Global is pointing out that, hey, this is also a cyber war. And that's our first big clue that the battlefield isn't just physical anymore. It's gone digital. And that invisible front, it carries its own huge risks. And then, boom, the World Economic Forum connects all the dots for us, showing how this conflict literally hits our wallets and our supply chains. It's messing with shipping, oil prices, and global trade. So you've got military, cyber, and economic impacts all converging. Let's really break down how this whole ripple effect works. So, let's start at the very beginning, the conflict at the epicenter. Everything else, all those ripples, they start right here, with the physical fighting that you see in the headlines. And the facts on the ground, well, they're pretty stark. To give you a sense of the scale here, the US has deployed about 2,500 Marines to the region. I mean, this isn't just a symbolic force, it's a pretty significant mobilization that tells you just how serious this has all become. And on the ground, the reality is just devastating. We're seeing these ongoing airstrikes, reports that top scientists are being assassinated, and, just tragically, thousands of deaths. The physical destruction is immense, and you've got drone and missile exchanges happening across multiple countries. This kinetic war is very real and very widespread. So, with all of that happening on the ground and in the air, you have to ask yourself, is that the whole story? Not even close. As we saw from the headlines, this conflict is spilling over into a totally different domain.
And that brings us to our first ripple, the invisible cyber front. This is where the conflict jumps beyond physical borders, and it moves silently, digitally, into the connected infrastructure we all rely on.
So, think about it like this. On one hand, you've got the traditional tools of war we all recognize: tanks, missiles, troops. But on the other hand, you have this whole new arsenal of modern digital weapons, data breaches, infrastructure hacks, digital espionage, and all of that can be just as destructive.
And believe me, this isn't some far-off theoretical risk. Right now, cybersecurity leaders, the folks we call CISOs, are on high alert all over the world. The targets aren't just military anymore. We're talking about governments, critical infrastructure like our power grids and water supplies, and even private companies. S&P analysts are actually flagging the spillover from this cyber conflict as a top-tier global risk. It's a huge deal.
Okay, so all of that brings us to the second major ripple, the global economic shockwaves. This is where all that physical and digital chaos starts to translate into real financial consequences that honestly affect every single one of us. It really comes down to geography. Take a look at the Strait of Hormuz. It's a critical choke point for shipping. About 20%, that's 1/5 of the entire world's seaborne oil supply, has to pass through this one tiny little strait. So any disruption here, whether it's from a physical attack or just shipping companies getting spooked and avoiding the area, it immediately puts a squeeze on the global energy supply. And when that happens, well, it creates total chaos in the markets. Oil prices have surged, natural gas prices are all over the place, and even gold, which is supposed to be the ultimate safe investment, is having mixed reactions as investors just struggle to figure out this new, unpredictable landscape.
This kind of volatility is forcing a huge rethink. The old rules of investing are really being put to the test. When even a classic safe haven asset like gold becomes unpredictable, that tells you just how deeply this conflict is shaking the very foundations of the global financial system.
All right, let's pull back and look at the big picture. We've seen the military angle, the cyber angle, and the economic angle. And when you pull it all together, it's crystal clear that this has put the entire world on high alert.
It's really like a cascading chain of events, a domino effect. Look, it starts with the geopolitical conflict itself. That triggers the cyber and shipping disruptions, which in turn creates all that economic and market volatility. And the end result? It's a fast-shifting, totally unpredictable global risk environment that affects everyone.
So, the ultimate takeaway here is this. What might look like a regional issue from thousands of miles away is in fact a deeply interconnected global event.
It's changing the game for insurance companies, for global investors, and for national security planners far from the actual fighting.
Which really leaves us with one final big question. In a world that is this interconnected by digital networks, by supply chains, by financial markets, is any conflict truly local anymore? Everything we've seen today suggests the answer is a pretty resounding no.